an experience to cherish, to take away with us. Thank you so much, Acharya.
Namaskara. Srinathadi Gurutrayam Ganapatim Pithatrayam Bhairavam Siddhaugam Vatukatrayam Padayugam Dutikramam Mandalam Viran Dashta Chatuska Shasti Navakam Viravali Panchakam Sriman Malini Mantra Raja Saitam Vande Gurur Mandalam. Sometimes we just have to talk. We may not have very new things to share. That is what is called sharing. It's not informing. It's sitting together, even if remotely, and saying similar things among like-minded people. What does it do? What is the benefit of these repeated thoughts? We call this vidyabhyasa, a repetition of supportive thoughts, wisdom that strengthens our faith, deepens our analysis, magnifies the elements integral to discourse, and it allows us to create a bond among the family members. So you don't need to sit with pen and paper. I want you to just listen. Let's go to the word Noah. Noah can have two different meanings. One is, of course, 9. 9, Noah, Noah. In many languages, you can see that. 9 is the highest single digit. And Noah also means new. It's a new beginning. Sharad, the ending of the rain, the ending of 4 months of rain, and Deva Paksha, a lunar calendar, has two aspects, the dark half, the Krishna Paksha, and the bright half. In the Navratra, what we mean is the beginning of the bright half. It has its own cultural factors, historical elements, community celebrations. So it has the socio-cultural aspects. We can talk about many of those, but I will not. I'm not an expert on those. I grew up with the memory of Sharadiya Durga Puja in particular, while our own family Kula Puja is in the Chaitra Navratra. That's 6 months ago. But this Sharadiya evokes this deepest memory as It begins even early in Krishna Paksha Navratra itself with invoking Chamunda, invoking Ugrachanda. The goddess is invoked in many names. Some people invoke her in the sword. Some go under a bilwa tree. But for all the Shakta practitioners, the significant day, the beginning is the Ghata Sthapana. Ghata is a jug, a pot, mostly clay pot. You can have golden pot, no problem. This Ghata Puja, Ghata Sthapana, worshipping, invoking the goddess in a vase, placing her in a vase, is very crucial. Even after having statues of the goddess or yantras, placing on top and so on, but it's still the prominent day, the first day of the Navratra, is the placement, sthapana, installation of the Ghata. Shankaracharya has written an extensive commentary in one of the sections is called Ghata Bhashya, commentary upon Ghata. Ghata is the body, and what resides within the body is the self, the Atman. So who is placed in the Ghata is your very self, the divine. These 9 nights, Navratra, are therefore a time of deep reflection upon the self-nature. Some have Pancharatra sadhana, Narada Pancharatra, for example. 5 nights of celebration or esoteric practices. They are the Vaishnavas. They were great tantrics, the Satodas in early times. They left it. Navratra goes beyond Pancharatra. So 9 nights. Now, what do we do other than the placement of the Ghata? It's in that we put the barley seeds or Navadhanya seeds. And in 9 nights, these seeds germinate. In the 10th day, these seeds are distributed as prasadam. If you are interested in history, you may be surprised that this barley seedling culture is still maintained by the Zoroastrians. When were we connected? In early Rigveda era. That's when we were connected. What may be the time frame of this ritual that has continued? 4,000 plus years. Now, if you read the Buddhist tantric manuals, you will see that the prominent goddesses in the Vajrayana start with Vajravarahi and culminates with Chandika, Chandika being the very goddess worshipped during the Navratra. The Chandika worship is so ubiquitous. You can go to Nepal and go to every mountain. You will find some Durga in a little rock. Go to Bengal, you will find Chamunda, Durga, Chandika. You can go to Mysore and Chamundi in all those areas, and you can go to Odisha, where you will find Chandika worshipped in so many perplexing forms that her statues come there in Odisha just in 2 arms to 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. All these variations with complexities growing. Now, Ratri I have explained so far only as the night. The word Ratri is derived from the Sanskrit root Ra. Ra means to give. Ra, dane, to give. Rati, sukham dadati. That bestows upon us happiness or success or glory. The days of new glory, you can translate it now differently instead of just 9 nights, because Ratri is not just night. The problem with Sanskrit words is the single word has different meanings, so many different meanings. And when you say night, and it has a lot of other connotations. Night can have negative connotations. Ra, Ratri, that which gives you pleasure, the time to enjoy. You see, all the world enjoys during the night, resting time. And so these are also the times to rest, to celebrate. And what do you celebrate? To celebrate your own true self being in the body. When you put something in number, immediately some type of mysticism, numeric mysticism starts. As you can see, 9 is simply 3 times 3. And what is 3? Now you can have infinite commentaries there. You can find all of that in texts. Tripura, the goddess Tripura Sundari, is worshipped as beyond the triad. And when we look into the text, the triad is so complicated, it encompasses everything. But in here, let's come back to the triad. The most basic 2 forms of triads I will share with you is the triad of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The Sattva guna, with the primacy of light, or fundamentally light, peace, wisdom. Rajas, dynamism. Tamas, inertia, rest. When these 3 gunas interpenetrate each other, each one having its own primal state, the sattva being sattva primary with rajas and tamas, and sattva with tamas primary, rajas dominated. The same way you can go with the pure one and the impure one when the gunas are intermixed. Now you get a complexity of the gunas into this ninefold structure. One more point in 9 and then I'll move forward. This 9 is also the Nava Yoni Chakra, that is the 9 triangles. If you have all these triangles, 9 triangles facing downward, you have the Bhairavi, the primacy of Yoni, Bhairavi Yantra. But if you have 4 triangles facing upward and 5 downward, you have this Shiva and Shakti harmonized yantra called Sri Yantra. Again, 9 goddesses. The centrality of 9 goddesses is even there in the most popular Shakta emblem, Sri Yantra or Sri Chakra. Looking through the guna perspective is mostly common to Puranic literature. But you need to understand that in the Trika philosophy, the guna concept is not gone out. It is through and through there. We just do not stress much on this nirguna or something completely expunged of gunas, because it is the gunas that maintains dynamism also. And even for Shiva to act, Shiva needs to have the rajas, to cognize, to sattva, to rest the tamas. So rather than stressing so much on nirguna nishkriya, that is what the Advaita Vedanta stresses on, the Shakta world is, even the absolute, is always resting with gunas. They are dormant and they can be expressed at will. That is why the absolute is able to bring the manifold anytime at will, and therefore the extension or the expression of the world is very much real expression of Shakti, or the dance of Shakti, vibrations of Shakti. This triadic guna structure expressed in the forms of 3 goddesses, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati, you can see in the Rahasya Traya, 3 esoteric teachings now commonly found in Navachandi, or most of the published books in the Devi Mahatmya incorporate these 3 sections, where in Pradhanika Rahasya, the primary esoteric teachings, itself reveals the guna structure, the expression of the gunas in the manifold of the same Shakti, assuming the guna, the balance when the Prakriti Gunatraya Samya Avastha, the state when all the gunas come to a absolute tranquility and harmony, being one state, and when these gunas start separating, disintegrating, and interconnecting with each other. So now we have to go eventually the 10th or the Turiya, the transcendent form. If 9 are the expressed gunas, the 10th, the absolute harmony, the absolute tranquility. What is liberation or moksha in this paradigm? Rather than being expunged of the gunas, it will be the absolute harmony then, and absolute tranquility then, and a total recognitions. Then these gunas are not inertia, they are like objects only. they retain that same divine luminosity, and they experience themselves in their guna structure and their transcendence. So the entire world in the Shakta paradigm is a self-aware system. Whatever we call as matter or inertia is also an expression or vibration or pulsation of that same divine energy. So this takes us to go to the next triad, that is the triadic structure of Icha, Jnana and Kriya Shaktis. Icha Shakti, volition, the power of will, the power to will. Jnana Shakti, the power to cognize. And Kriya Shakti, the power of action, the power to act. From the Trika perspective, Icha eva ghanibhuta, when condensed, materialized or manifest, our cognition is the very volition thickened, Ghanibhuta. Our actions are the very knowledge thickened. Like you are just walking and then you see a creepy crawly thing right in front of you. You move your feet back. It's just your knowledge translates into action in a millisecond. You touch fire, you pull out your finger right away, unless you are very dumb. You don't need to start thinking, oh, well, some what we call in philosophy propositional knowledge. Because this is hot and burning, this must be fire, and burning my finger into fire can damage my body. Therefore, I should remove my finger. No sane person does that. It's immediate, instantaneous. You don't always need to know with your head, like you feel thirsty, you drink water. You are not always saying yourself, oh, I'm thirsty, by the way. Sometimes spontaneously happen these actions. When you want to understand the connection of knowledge and action, you have to look into those spontaneous moments. These spontaneous moments, our friend Nritya is in dance, for example, that their knowing is their acting. Sometimes their acting is their knowing. Meaning, the best of the performers do not have a book of every move. Their move is integral to their knowledge, is integral to their body. Even in command language, there's kids running and you say stop and they stop. And they don't spend time to think and theorize what is the meaning of stopping. Philosophize, there is no. So you can see how our knowledge translates into action. Knowledge evolves into action. And there is a deeper relation between will and knowledge. Only what we will, we know. When we are so passive, our surrounding stops giving us information. Even the gestures of our friends, we fail to understand. We have no will to understand. We don't understand those gestures. You know? Have you ever been misunderstood? You know? Have you tried explaining to someone and failed? This is what it is. So there has to be the will to understand for someone to understand you. There is a will evolving into cognition, evolving into action. And this triadic structure is what is the manifestation of Kali, of Chandi, of Chamunda, whatever different names you invoke her, she is one. The goddess, the divine mother is one. She manifests into the manifold forms. Like when you say Prathamam Shailaputri cha Ditiyam Brahmacharini, Tritiyam Chandraghanteti Kushmandeti Chaturthakam. So when you invoke 9 Durgas with a name, you get the impression that she is the consort of this god, as the consort of that god, and there is no connection. They may be relatives or friends. That's a total misunderstanding of the Shakta structure. The singular, divine, self-expressive force assumes the ninefold structure. And that ninefold structure is an extension of the triadic structure that you can explain either following the guna, that is sattva, rajas, tamas, or the triad following the structure of ichha, jnana, and kriya. So primarily, when you read Devi Mahatmya, you will find the primacy of the guna structure. And when you read the Trika structure, you will find the triadic structure in the form of volition, cognition, and action. And then you fail to see they are actually explaining the same absolute unfolding into the manifold, in assuming different structures and different forms. What is this expression like? The first expression, Swatantra Shakti, Kramasam Sisriksha, Kramatmata. What is the Swatantra Shakti? The power of autonomy, freedom. This Shakti, freedom, is such that it cannot even be defined. That is how we got Anirvachaniya. Not in the sense of this elusive, deceptive Maya, but the Swatantra that cannot be defined. Let's say, how do you define things? A dog, you define with the number of teeth they have, the tail they have. Particular shape is very difficult. The particular way they bark, maybe that is how you define a dog. But what if the dog is free? And the dog tomorrow takes the form of a swan, and the next day a cat, and another day a mouse. You see? How are you going to define your dog now? This is my dog today. He chose to be a cat. Try to explain that to your neighbors. This is why Swatantra is not something you can define. Because defining is putting condition. When you put something in condition, then it is not free. It can act only within that parameters. There is no determination, there is no definition. That is what it is meant by Anirvachaniya Shakti. Free, because it is absolutely free, therefore it is indeterminable. You cannot determine. Determination is something that you can only determine the finite forms, structures, names. You cannot determine absolute freedom. This very absolute freedom makes it possible for this manifold. So that absolute freedom has to have to feel its freedom, to enjoy its freedom. Otherwise, what freedom it is that you can never experience? What is worth that freedom that you never know? What is worth that freedom that you cannot experience? What is worth that freedom that cannot ever be affirmed? Now you see, what is the purpose of the world? What is the purpose of being in the world? What is the point of that absolute Shiva without experiencing its freedom? Like there is one guy says, I'm Shiva, I'm free, I can do whatever I like. You can meet these people in crossroads in any daytime in India, okay? They just smoke a bit and they say, I'm Shiva, I can do whatever I like. So what if there is one of them a real Shiva? How do you know that this one is the actual Shiva and those are just guys with high, in ganja? He has to do something, Kriya Shakti. He has to know something. He has to have the will to know something. Otherwise, that absolute would not be free. And this is what we are now. The world is an expression of the freedom of Shiva. And our own self-recognition, when we recognize our true nature as Shiva, then this is an actualization of the potentials that you have. How do you know you can climb a mountain? Have you ever tried? How do you know you can swim? Have you ever tried? How do you know you can go for fasting during the 9 nights of Navratra? Have you ever tried? You see, you try and you know the action. Shiva recognizes Shivahood, and in the process of recognition, there is one aspect of not knowing. Then that is where this Ratri as darkness, Navaratra, Ratri as ignorance, creeps in. I do not know. What happens when you do not know? Fear arises. Ditiyad vai bhayam bhavati. When you stop seeing the totality as the singular, undifferentiated Shiva nature, fear arises. Who is the one that experienced fear for the first time? Who is the firstborn? The firstborn is Brahma. the God of creation. And he is also the one to experience fear for the first time. The Madhu and Kaitava, these two demons, start shaking his base, the Adhara. And Brahma is scared. How can he, that Brahma, because he is the one that creates duality. Otherwise, before that, there is just Narayana, singularity. The one resting in waters, waters of consciousness, in within itself, resting within itself. Apo Nara Prakirtita. Nara is the waters. So this firstborn experiencing fear, recognizing duality, trembles and invokes Kali. She's also called Nidra, slumber. Because she is the one who can bring all of us to rest. She puts Narayana to rest like her baby. And she is the one who wakes him up. The battle and the victory, all the story, you have to read the Devi Mahatmya. But you can see the rise of duality. You can see the emergence of volition. You can see the rise of sattva and rajas. And then the primacy of Narayana, the sattva. And you move to the next charitra, the act of the goddess, where you will see primacy of jnana, of kriya also manifest the same way of rajas. The story is reversed. If the first section gives you first the singularity and that coming to duality, in the second section of the Devi Mahatmya, chapters 2 through 4, you have this plurality, gods recognizing singularity in the divine form of Mahisha Mardini, the buffalo slaying Chamunda. And even here, Vairishwapi Prakatite Vadayato Etham. So even among the demons, she is as compassionate. What is primary teaching of this section is Karuna, the compassion of the goddess. That she liberates not just gods and sages and humans, she liberates the demons as well. She provides them sayujya, meaning they merge within the body of the divine. And the whole bipolar structure of the good and the evil as presented in the Western Abrahamic traditions does not work here. It is Shakti. Good and evil is applications. They all dissolve into this singularity, the divine play of Shakti. And that again unfolds if you go in the third section with the manifold goddesses expressed in various forms, the Mavati, Chamunda. Now, all the Ashtamatrikas come into the picture now here, and they play different roles. And now a good question comes. What is the connection of this Navratra with the structure of Ashtamatrika? In the Trishakti Chamunda manuals revealed by my Paramaguru, Vidyaranya Saraswati, you can see fourfold structures of 64 yoginis surrounding in different mandalas, separate and then the final as a consolidated mandala of Chandika. Separate mandalas for Mahakali Mahalakshmi Ma Saraswati with her own vrinda, the wheel of yoginis. This yogini structure is the structure of matrikas. 8 times 8, 64. In the ancient times, when they had these early pratishakyas, they considered 64 phonemes. Trishashti, Chatushashti va Varna, Shambhu Mate Matha, in the order of Shambhava order. 63 or 64, basically we followed the 64 structure, the phonemes. So when you have on the one hand the phonetic structure, in eightfold structure you have Akachata, Tapayasha, Brahmi, Maheshi, Komari, Vaishnavi, Vara, Indrani, Chamunda, Mahalakshmi, and sometimes the names vary. And then you have this ninefold structure of Durga or Chandi, transcending the Matrika order, because always and in every mandala, the wheel of Durgas are inside in the interior circles of the wheels of Matrikas or yoginis. The ninefold wheel is interior to the phonetic structure, meaning these divine energies of the expression of volition, cognition, and action, or the triadic guna structures, are deeper, in the deeper layers, encircled or given their expression, empowered by the will of matrikas or the will of yoginis. Without recognizing the will of yoginis, we cannot recognize or enter into the triadic structure of the gunas or of three shaktis. In the Trika philosophy, we have these three goddesses: Para, Para and Apara. Para, the luminous white moon-like body, and Para, the red goddess, and Apara, the black one, with the mating consorts are embracing Bhairavas, Bhairava, Sadbhava, Pratishekhara, and Navatman. The same Navatma Bhairava, the in conjuncture with expressed in the form of Kubjika. Again, you can see how the opera herself expresses in the Kubji Kali forms or all the other Kalis in the opera form. And she herself expresses in the red goddess forms, Rati, primacy of Rati. So she's therefore mating with Rati Shekhara Bhairava. And this Rati is expressed in the triadic structure of Tripura Sundari, Kameshwari. She is the goddess of desire. You can see Bhagamalini, see who wears Bhaga. Nitya Klina, see who is always wet. So you can see the primacy of Rajas or arousal in this complete wheel. And then you can go to the primacy of Sattva in varied forms of Para. Some of the Bala forms are Para forms. And you can see Saraswati, Bijas, Nila Saraswati, and many of the Saraswati forms. And then it extends, connects even with Tarini, Tara form. So you have the most graphic Kali form of Tara, but it starts from Tara as Om with the Pranava, and in that state as a Sattva, expression of Sattva. So to celebrate Navratra is not just to sit and repeat the book Devi Mahatmyam. Most of you don't even do that. Maybe repeat the Navarna mantra. Maybe many of you are reluctant to take Diksha because that makes you feel being a student. And nobody likes to be a student these days. But these are, I'm taking it for granted that the discourse I'm giving is for those who are already dedicated in sadhana. And they want to recognize what deeper layers of connections are there to be made so that we can celebrate this Navratra not just with festivities or fasting. Doesn't matter how you celebrate. The goal has to be to recognize yourself, your ninefold manifestation, ninefold viewers. The Kaulas viewed the body as Navavyuha, 9 wheels, Kala, Kula, Nama, Jnana, Chitta, Nada, Bindu, Kala, Jiva. All these different viewers, wheels. Time itself is one of the wheels, circles. Kula, the elements, the wheel. Name, our expressed name is a wheel. All these structures through which the absolute unfolds into the manifold forms, through which you recognize, as I started from Ghatavasya, the commentary upon Ghata, the pot. I would like to just go back to that same Ghata, that this is the Ghata of the nectar. Deva Danava Sambade Mathyamane Mahodado. So this Ghata is the very mythical pot that the gods and the demons turned the ocean and discovered. This Ghata is the Ghata that contains the nectar of immortality. And what is that nectar of immortality? That is self-realization, to recognize what you truly are, who you really are, and only that recognition can give you immortality. Because you are trying to protect something that is not even you, then that does not make you immortal. That's why Maitreyi says to Yajnavalkya, Ye naham namrita syam, te naham kim kuryam. What the worth it is that cannot grant me immortality. Because Yajnavalkya says, take all the wealth, I'm going to forest. And Maitreyi is like, what is it worth? It can't make me immortal. And this Navaratri is also Ra, is also Dane. It's to give. These 9 days should teach you to give. Nobody needs to teach you to take. So the goddess is always giving. And you embody the same goddess nature by giving, never demanding, always giving. And that giving nature, if that comes into your life, you are already happy. A poor man needs things, a rich man gives. I'm not talking about whether actually rich people give or actually poor people take. I'm talking about the mind. So when you give, your mind is so big that you believe that you are able to give something to somebody. Celebrating Navratra is celebrating your expansion, a period of blossoming, a blooming time coming to your glory, to recognize the powers within you, to be who you are, to recognize your absolute freedom. I would like to stop at this point, and if you have questions, I'm happy to entertain them. Thank you so much.
I think the goddess just dances in front of your eyes, Acharya ji. Your eyes are closed throughout. She seems to be dancing in your mind and then through your words. It's been, I think, fabulous that the whole structure of the triad, of the Guna triad and the triad of Icha, Jnana and Kriya mapping to the ninefold division of Navaratri and just the sheer variations of Nava and Ratri. It's been a treat. I think that's just it's an understatement to say it's been a delight. I request those of you who have questions to kindly ask. I can read them out to you, Acharya ji.
Sure.
Guruji, are there any parallels between Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati, and Para, Parapara, and Apara?
The Puranic text did not come, out of a blue. If you read the Tantric texts, the early Trika texts, they are also not completely aloof of the guna division. And actually, if we want to go to purely Trika conversation, we have to go to Somananda, Shivadrishti, and the way it
Oh, did he log off? Did he drop off? We'll just wait.
Yeah, maybe his
Renuka
connection
ji,
broke.
Renuka ji, could you please ping him if you don't mind? We'll wait for him to come back. Yeah, he's back.
is the camera upside down.
Yes, it's tilted to one side.
Oh, let me see. I don't know what happened. What about now? Yeah.
Now the video seems to be off, Acharya ji.
No, I didn't know what happened. 1 second, sorry about that. Can you see me?
Yes, yes, Acharya ji.
Yeah, my apologies. Some people started calling and then it generally doesn't cut, but this time the Zoom was cut because of the phone calls. Where was I? Yeah, so the triadic structures, if you read Tantra Sadbhava early text, the guna analysis is present there. And if you read the Devi Mahatmya text, you can extract the volition, cognition, action type of a triadic structure from there also. And when in the stotra, para, paranam, parama, therefore I have commented in my own discourse, I commented as upon para and apara. I have traced there in the Devi Mahatmya because I do not see that there is necessarily a graphic difference in these structures. What Puranas did, the Tantras have a very esoteric nature. Puranas popularized these forms and then brought with the integrated with popular Hindu mythologies. And so, but other than that, the popular Shaktism is the Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati forms. Everybody in India knows Saraswati. Everybody in India knows Lakshmi. Even in the West, I had a student from Texas. Like she had a huge tattoo on her arm of Lakshmi. So people like Lakshmi. She gives money. Who is there not to like Lakshmi? Actually, Kali is more popular these days in the West than in India. She's like weird, and people love weird. So, so she's not to be contained, and people don't like to be contained. She's like absolute expression of freedom. So, the idea of Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati is to reach out to the layperson through stories, through all these mythical narratives and all. But if you read deeper philosophical content, this is a product of the same culture. And you cannot say that they are like, oh, they are not citing Abhinavagupta, therefore that's like doing Indology, okay? So get out of that mindset. So are they aware of the triadic structure when they are writing Trika texts? Yes. And then if you read the imagery, see the image of para, 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 and opera, do they relate to Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati form? Just put their images and compare, like just the color comparison. And you can see that there is no gymnastics required to interlink them. But more than that, we can. It's a matter of research. We can actually trace. I hope one day more clearly the interconnection of the Trika and the popular triadic structure of Kali and Lakshmi and all. Thank you.
Someday, if you could do that for us, it will be, I think, for most interest, because this is a point where there is so much confusion in terms of the intersections and the divergences. I think there's nobody else better suited to do this than Acharya ji. I have a few questions again. There's someone who's asking, can you also throw in the triad of Kali, Tara, Tripura Sundari within this idea of Para, Para, and Para?
In the Mahavidya structure, you can see Dasha Mahavidya in Tantra. You have Kali, and you have Tara, and you have Tripura Sundari, the first three goddesses. And both Kali and Tara iconographically match. But besides that matching iconography of Tara, you can go to her very pristine forms. And most of these pristine Tara forms are common in Vajrayana Buddhism. And Tara itself is Pranava, Om. And so that is Suddha Sattva expression. Therefore, even the connection of Tara with Rama, you can find in Bengali tantras, because of this primacy of Suddha Sattva. And the Rajas with the Kameshwari, Tripura Sundari, her expressed form, herself expressed as the manifest in assuming the Rajas. So while all of these goddesses transcend the triadic structure, but at the same time they are manifesting by having primacy of one or the other. And I don't need to say in Kali, of course, there is the primacy of Tamas. So, but how can you trace the primacy of will in Kali? So that if you read the Trika text, they will be very clear, at least in the context of Kali, the primacy of will. Although, again, in her Kalasankarshini form, that Kali's own form, she transcends the triadic structure. And then she's this absolute Kali, but at the same time, when she expresses what particular primacy of guna, tamoguna. So that is why in the Devi Mahatmya, if you read the names of the goddess in the Ratri Shukta, but you can also read in the Pradhanika Rahasya, Vaikritika Rahasya also, you can find the primacy of Tamas in the form of Kali. So this triadic structure is one, that you have another triadic structure, you have multiple triadic structures. In the Sarvamnaya Tantra, we have the triadic structure that merges in Kubjika, and we have on one side the Kali and another side Tripura Sundari in their Nirvana form. So this is again yet another triadic structure. You can have infinite triads. Don't worry about the triads. The message, what we can get to the gist of it is the same thing, that the manifest reality is triadic, and it is not like the absolute is separate from it. It itself unfolds in the triad. The bindu is always separate from the trikona, but this separation is not a complete separation in the Shakta world, because it's not like a transcendent entity is diametrically different from the manifest reality. Whatever transcends, transcends at will and comes into the manifold at will. So do not get bogged down to how many triads can there be, because it's as many as you like. Thank you.
We do sadhana every day for self-realization. What is the difference between my everyday life and the Navaratras?
There is no difference, honestly, to tell you the truth. The sadhana time is also part of our everyday life. But what we do is we need that celebration to put value to it. You know, I have this sister, feeling sad, and then that's her birthday. We go surprise, give birthday party, and then all the cheers and gossips, and then she's happy. So the birthday is not like a very special day. I mean, you don't remember your birthday anyway. You could have given a different day as your birthday, but you put value to that day, and that day you celebrate, and it becomes special. So I'm not going to say Navratra has its own extrinsic validity. My point is, what does it matter if you do not want to do any sadhana? But if you want to do sadhana, some days you have to learn to make as a special day, because if you cannot push yourself every day, right? You are doing the best you can every day, and then some days you push yourself to do more. And that's why I find Navaratras very special, because it's not possible for me to push myself every day. I push myself every day as much as I can, but not more than that. And then we need these celebrations. Sorry, I'm not going very philosophical here, because I find it more like, mm, related to everybody's life. We need some days to celebrate.
Yes. I was slightly able to follow the mixing of three gunas into the ninefold structure. But how does Icha, Jnana, Kriya triad correspond to Navadurga?
Again comes the similar question. So in the more complex, I can give you more complexities. There are different kalpas also to worship Durga. In the Ugrachanda kalpa, we have the Bhadrakali kalpa, and we have the Katyayani kalpa. Primarily, when in the Ugrachanda kalpa, you can see expressed Kali form Kriya Shakti, very much expressed. In the Bhadrakali kalpa, you can see Prathamam Shailaputri, Ditiyam Brahmacharini, all these goddesses, more benign forms compared to Ugrachanda. And then there is a primacy of Jnana Shakti. And then in the Katyayani Kalpa, you have even less of the volatility or dynamism, and that is why that is where you can see centrality of Icha. But I'm giving you not just 9 times 3, 27 more. But how does it relate to even within 9? This how can these Navadurgas be an expression of Icha, Jnana, and Kriya Shakti? Go back to the primary 3 again. Kalaratrir, Maharatrir, Moharatrir, Daruna. These 3 primary, Saptami, Ashtami, and Navami Ratris, 3 nights, and then Kalaratri, Maharatri, and Moharatri. Within these 3, the primacy of volition in the expression of Mahasaraswati, and this primacy of Jnana Shakti in the Mahalakshmi. Mahalakshmi here is not to be understood as the money goddess, because when you go to Siddhi Lakshmi order, again, you'll find Lakshmi is not a result. Even the Devi Mahatma itself, the Mahalakshmi herself is beyond the triadic structure, and she herself gives rise to these three goddesses. And Kriya Shakti is Kali, of course, very expressed that, in her expression, it is very clear how Kriya Shakti is expressed in Mahakali form. So, Kalaratri, these in these 3 nights, um, Maharatri, Moharatri. So when we see the primary 3 nights, and then you can go back to as a starting like elemental forms, or starting from the Pratipad, the first night of the Navratra. Is there a clear connotation? I do not know, because my own Guruji, Bharati Swamiji, would divide um, 36 Navaratras, meaning 9 nights, and the 10th day as the completion day, celebration day, and then 9 nights, the 10th day, the completion day, 360 days, the whole year, entire calendar divided as Navaratra celebration. So that is why I was reluctant to say this is the only Navaratra in your life, because I know the sadhakas who can see not just 4 nights, there are 4 times Navaratra. I didn't discuss with you much, like Shravana Navaratra, Magha Navaratra, Chaitra Navaratra, Ashwina Navaratra. In every year, for most sadhakas, there is 4 times 9, that is 36 nights are still considered a primary celebration. Still, most sadhakas do celebrate these 4 Navaratras, but of course, Ashwina is the major. Even the non-practitioners know about this. But if you want to divide the entire calendar into Navaratras, I can give you the reference of Bharati Swami, who did this categorization for the entire life as living within Navaratra. Thank you.
It's so beautiful. What a beautiful way of presenting the whole year is Navaratri. What a beautiful thoughts there, Acharya. We have another question. In this combinatorial structure of the gunas, what role does the Vyoma of Sadashiva play? Is it itself constituted by these gunas or stand transcendent to them?
This Vyoma is not the void of nothing. This Vyoman is the empty fullness. It is replete with what? How can it be a Vyoman? It's not Shunya of nothing. It's the Vyoman. It's totally empty, but is everything. It's like what they say in the white collar is all the colors. So it's like that type of potential where there is nothing expressed, therefore nothing is visible, nothing is actually traceable, nothing is determinable. That is why it is Vyoman. It is full of infinite potentials. So this is not, I already told you, not a Nirguna Nishkriya Brahman. This is replete with potentials, not expressing all the potentials all the times. So how can I give you like a mythology? Let's go to some mythical characterization of Lord Shiva. The only beggar god is Lord Shiva. Only he can afford to beg because he has everything, and so he doesn't need to prove himself having richness. we are not ready to beg because we are lacking, we are really beggars, so therefore we cannot go and beg. So so this is like Lord Shiva's begging. I'm using as a metaphor for his emptiness. So his emptiness is not a lack. This is the lack of all the possibilities. This is the canvas before the painting. This is the womb before the embryo. This is Shakti. Therefore, the Shiva is not separated from Shakti. Thank you.
We see by the stories that in Navaratri, each day has a different form of Devi, and we can see as an unfolding of Shakti. How can we understand and implement the cycle of unfolding of the self during Navaratri?
When do we start, or where do we start our sadhana? Many people reserve their food intake. If your job, your requirement allows you, don't kill yourself, of course, but control your food. You recognize the expression of Ichha, Jnana, and Kriya in your physical masses. Maintain silence. And maintain silence does not mean that you only tweet or go on Facebook. You just completely throw your gadgets. Vach is the second of the Shaktis. If the gross physicality is the most expressed form, how to teach tapas for the body is through food. How to teach tapas for mantras is through speech. And how to teach your prana is through mantras. Vang me manasi pratishtitam, mano me vachi pratishtitam. Make that your vach speech is situated in the mind in the speech. So you will recognize when you maintain silence and when you allow the mantras to flow through you, you recognize your transcendence to Kaya, Vak, and Chitta. Kaya is the body, Vak the speech, and the mind is the Chitta. When you are ready to transcend this yet another triad, then you recognize the Navratra. So you can use this first triad, the Kaya, the body, for 3 days, the struggle with your body, and body comes to somehow balance. When you regulate food, your body is harmonized now. Maintaining silence now, you have already been silent for 3 days. Work on speech for the other 3 days. And then the last 3 nights, just go back to the mind. And it will help you transcend. And that moment will be the victory, the Dashama, Vijaya. That is when you have conquered, because you have conquered over these conditioning factors that delimit you within your body, within your speech, and within your mind. When you conquer the triadic structure, you are liberated. That is how you do sadhana. Thank you.
Just what do we say? That's a Vyakhana in and of itself. I think there's so much to take away from how you beautifully brought the triads of the 3 days, Acharya ji. I think just that it alone is a takeaway to really reflect upon for the Navratra and every Navratra. Guna Sharma wants some more input on the Trigunas and the Ninefold, but I think we're running out of time. So perhaps I'll request him to reach out directly to Vimarsha for answering these questions. I come from South India, where Navratri is celebrated with a feast, temple meals, and similar Naivedya in homes. I'm torn between fasting and eating light and feasting. Can you suggest via media, perhaps?
Well, you don't want to hear me on this one because I have done fastings, I have done silence, I have done mantras, and I have also feasted till getting sick to my stomach. So uh, do what helps you. But the goal is something that you need to keep in mind, you know, and you cannot do one thing and expect the opposite result. Meaning, if you are feasting and you will not get the rewards of fasting. So I have to stop at that. I don't have some deep wisdom other than celebration through freedom. That is also necessary, because it should not be a taboo. My point is, we are sometimes dogmatic. Oh, I have to do this. Like, look at my wife is fasting, and what is she going to say? Oh, my sister is very spiritual. She does fasting during Navratra, and then I feel little bad eating alone. That is not the way to celebrate Navratra. If you Because that is why tantric sadhana is not some kind of enforced sadhana. It is like even a family, one person may be doing sadhana, and maybe among many people only one is doing sadhana. So therefore you need to know whether you are cut out for doing any sadhana. Oh, let's go for a hike, and then after 10 miles you are like, why did you bring me here? I have people quarreled with me for bringing them for a hike. I'm like, dude, I let you join me. Okay? So that is my feeling. You can see the difference. I'm like, you invited someone to a party and then the man is complaining. So that is why you do not want to enforce Navaratra. Don't make it yet another dogmatic period that you have to do this way or that way. Do the way you like. And when I feel like eating, I give my justification. I'm worshiping my ma. And who in India find one mother who likes to see her child fasting? That is my justification when I feel like eating. Okay? When I feel like not eating, then I just do not give that lecture. I just say, this is my fasting day and I don't want to hear you. I'll throw shastras there. Look, this is fasting time. So I do not do because it is said in the book. I do it as my heart calls. Thank you. So let's stop at that and let's invoke the mother. I hope all of you won't mind to repeat one line with me today. Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute. Let me explain it to you. You have 9 goddesses: Jayanti, Mangala, Kali, Bhadrakali, Kapalini, Durga, Kshama, Shiva, Dhatri. You have 9 goddesses here, okay? Jayanti, Mangala, Kali, Bhadrakali, Kapalini, Durga, Kshama, Shiva, Dhatri. 9 goddesses invoked. And Swaha, Swadha, Namostute. Swaha is when you libate, you do havana, then Swaha. Swadha is when you libate with water, when you do tarpana. Swadha. Nama is when you offer flowers and rice. 3 types of worship. I worship you. You 9 deities, 9 goddesses of Navaratri: Jayanti, Mangala, Kali, Bhadrakali, Kapalini, Durga, Kshama, Shiva, Dhatri. You 9 goddesses, I worship you in fire by libations with ghee, and I worship you with water by libation, and I worship you with flowers and incenses and every single thing. I worship you with the pure speech coming from my heart. Jayanti, Mangala Kali, Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute. Thank you so much.
We have to thank you, Acharya ji. Deepest gratitude. Thank you doesn't cover it. What you have given us is a diksha of sorts, that in your sthana as a guru, as a jnana guru, as a sadhaka, I think we are blessed on this very special day to receive these words from you. And we will hold this with great value. I offer before you my sincere, my humble request on behalf of myself and Sangeeta, my partner in this journey, that you join with us to help us promote, to bring such jewels to light. Do give us some time from your very, very busy calendar. Deepest gratitude to you. My request to all those who joined us today to kindly follow us on Facebook. Our handle is Paanchajanya. For those who are not there at the beginning, Paanchajanya is an initiative that two of us have floated, where we hope to bring about a resurgence of traditional practices, traditional knowledge, traditional values, weaving together art appreciation, history, culture, iconography, sacred ecology, cuisine, craft, and so on, into a tapestry of grandeur, of delight, because this is the heart of our culture. And there is so much wisdom in the commonest of practices, as Acharya so beautifully said. Navratri, how do I fast? And therefore, restraint of the indriyas, restraint of speech by silence, restraint through the food. So many ways in which such deep insights can be brought into practice, and it is our vision to showcase this. So please do follow us, please do support us, and please be in touch with us so that we can communicate about more such events. Again, my gratitude to Renuka ji. Without her, this connection would not have happened. And thank you so much, Acharya ji. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Namaste. Have a very pleasant rest of your day.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.